At this point, I think we're all aware that the Witcher series is basically on its last legs, with Henry Cavill out and a series of journalists ripping every interview apart he did on a private Discord looking for the remotely, air quotes, problematic thing. The Witcher is over. And Blood Origin, which is one of the, if the not lowest rated audience score for any Netflix series on anything, even the critical score has not been brilliant, it's 9%. The criticism of the show has gone from terrible script to terrible costumes to terribly cheap looking series. And ultimately, when you hire a bunch of writers which openly mock and dislike the source material, this is what happens. And it's a rinse and repeat cycle. The fan blaming bingo has already started, and at this point, just end it. The first season of the original Witcher show I actually liked. It had potential. On the other side of it, it progressively got worse and descended into just this dire show that just didn't feel like the material, the books that it's based on. Like I said, having writers that mock the material is ultimately a bad idea. Now, Blood Origin has happened, which is based on a sentence or two, a small paragraph within a book. It just feels completely and utterly pointless. This feels like a cash grab. And why I will say, overall, it does look, costumes-wise, and some of the set pieces do look a lot better than Rings of Power. It's definitely at that level of it's dead Jim. You know, you create something, destroy it for the sake of modernity, and then obliterate anything within the show. Ultimately, no one likes this. No one wanted this. They want Henry Cavill playing The Witcher as he is presented within the books and the games, not The Witcher, not what they've tried to do, which is shoehorn him out of his own series and shift the focus to other characters and using characters as a MacGuffin. The writing in this is absolutely pants, to use a very British term. The writing in this is bad. And ultimately, you're trying to create a series that's meant to tell an origin story, but this is not how to do it. The audience do not like the show, critics don't like the show, which is actually a surprise, despite a handful of people. A lot of people have said the same. It's missing the magic that made The Witcher, and that's the problem. The first season of The Witcher is a show that I really loved. And I mean that. The first season was this great show that had a lot of potential. On the other side of it, this show, they've squandered that potential and just turned it into something that it isn't. And the Rotten Tomatoes review, a shallow excavation of ancient lore from the epic fantasy series Blood Origin shares ancestry DNA with The Witcher, but little of what makes the mothership seem so memorable, and that's ultimately the problem here. This show is forgettable. It's not well written. It's not held together very well. Is it as bad as Rings of Power? No, but that's a benchmark that we are yet to... Well, Season 2 of Rings of Power is coming soon, so... Yeah, there's a benchmark there. Let's see if they can either hit it or go lower. Let's see if we can make that benchmark lower, people. The Witcher as a series is phenomenal, and I talked in depth about the books in a much older video, which in hindsight, I could do a lot better with now. But if you check out the playlist The Witcher of mine, you'll see what I mean. Now, ultimately, this is just, like they said, it's shallow excavation of very loose lore that seems to just be a footnote within the story rather than anything actually written. They didn't have the material, so everything here is made up, and ultimately this is budget fan fiction, and I have seen budget fan films that look a million times better than this. This is extremely generic, extremely dull, and extremely flat, and that's ultimately the problem here. It's not the fact that they've created a prequel to The Witcher, it's the fact that they've just created another generic fantasy show that bears a name but very little resemblance to anything in there. If you don't have the source material to start with, why create it? And why waste Michelle Yeoh? Seriously, she is phenomenal. Michelle Yeoh is one of my favourite actresses. She is phenomenal. And she is completely wasted within this series. And it's a real shame. So, guys, tell me what you think in the comments below. All of my links and info are there, and if you want to join or do anything, it's all there too. I will also say I'm trying to do videos 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, and I also have a second channel called BBG Extra, which you guys might be interested in. It's shorts, off-the-cuff stuff, outtakes, and a few funny things too. So, tell me what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.